Okay, so we are on air. Welcome everybody to the third edition of International E-commerce Day and the last session for this room. My name is Alexander Golub and I'm going to be your host. And next to me, I have Bobby Hewitt. But before I present Bobby Hewitt, I want to also thank our dear partners from GetResponse for their support. So, Bobby, welcome to the screen. You are the president and founder of Creative Thirst.
That's correct.
That is a conversion rate agency that, let me quote, that focuses exclusively on increasing revenue and average order value for companies selling health products and natural health supplements. Is that correct?
That's right. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Thank you for being here. This means you are talking to the right audience, because in the last session, someone asked about the health industry, and you were like, I'm on it, I'm the expert, I'm gonna talk about it. So I'm gonna put your presentation on full screen, which should be, it's on full screen right now. And Bobby, you have the...
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. So what we're gonna be getting into here is the missing piece of conversion rate optimization. And some of the topic in my session here is maybe a little bit more advanced from some of the other sessions. It's really at a very high level, and I'll be here for your questions afterwards. So let's just get right into it. So this is basically the graph that we all want to see, right? We all want our graphs to go up and to the right. We all need to be doing A/B testing, and we know that. But before we really decide on what to test, we have to do the research to really uncover what's going on under the hood. So good CRO practitioners have you looking at analytics, customer journey flows, heat maps, session recordings, right? The list goes on and on. But when it comes to CRO research, I believe that conversion rate optimization practitioners are really just scratching the surface. To really get up and to the right, we're going to have to go much deeper than we've ever gone before as marketers and as optimizers. We're going to have to move beyond the tactics, beyond the customers, and even beyond the web page itself. So CRO agencies are all structuring their tests around the same set of variables as everyone else, which really amounts to on-page optimization, right? Right now, the CRO world is in the equivalent of the SEO keyword stuffing and meta tag data world that we were in 10 years ago, right? And those things, on-page CRO optimization, include stuff like put stuff above the fold, like reduce the friction, right? Create urgency, use a contrasting color, all the stuff we've heard before, right? Reduce form fields, add testimonials. All that stuff is great, and all that stuff is really just the basics, but we've got to move really deeper if we really want to move the needle. And so all of these on-page optimization tactics, if you will, all of them result in the same sort of tests. And 99% of the split tests out there wind up looking the same. They wind up looking like this. If we reduce the form fields, if we add trust badges and security seals, if we reduce friction, if we create urgency, if we add testimonials, if we move this above the fold, right, on and on and on, then we'll get a lift. But these are really just the CRO best practices. They don't go far enough. And the reason why is because we're looking at CRO as a bolt-on feature, right? But CRO, conversion rate optimization, it's not just the polish on top. It's not the dressing. It's simply optimization, pure and simple, in my opinion. Optimization through a deep, meaningful insight on every level across the entire business, not just on the page. The problem is we're only looking at the presentation layer, which is the website. What we're missing is the marketplace and how the marketplace fits into optimization and split testing. And that's what we'll be diving into here in this presentation today. Now, Mark Andreessen, founder of Silicon Valley venture cap firm, said, product market fit means being in a good market with a product that can satisfy the market. Now, I believe that product market fit actually starts with the market first and not the product. The market is where the real true innovation happens. And marketplace insight is what's missing to truly optimize for the biggest gain. Market insight is the discovery of an overarching truth about customers, their aspirations and motivations, which can be turned into huge growth levers. But to get to market insight, you have to first understand that the market is broken up into two sides. And those two sides are marketplace awareness and marketplace sophistication. Now, both of these were popularized by Eugene Schwartz. He was one of the greatest direct response copywriters in the world. And you could really dive in deep if you really want to know way more. Pick up a copy of his best-selling book, Breakthrough Advertising. Now, let's dive into each one of these and sort of unpack them. So marketplace awareness is simply the answer to how well known your product, benefit, or problem is in the marketplace. Now, you need to know what the market is already aware of so that you can articulate the right marketing message to match the level of awareness that you're testing. And then test for the best way to articulate that value. But first, you need to understand where the market is. And this is the key step that I think everybody is missing. And to analyze where your market level of awareness is, you need to answer these three questions. What does my market already know about the product? What does my market already know about the benefit? And what does my market already know about the product? So the key is the already know part. The answer to that will tell you where the market's level of awareness sits on a spectrum across 5 different stages. And here are those 5 stages. They are composed of completely aware, problem aware, solution aware, product aware, and most aware. Now, in a market that is completely unaware, your prospects are not aware of the problem or the need for a solution. In a market that is problem aware, they're only aware of the problem and nothing else. In a market that is solution aware, they are aware of the problem and the different solutions available to them. And in a market that is product aware, they are aware of the problem and the solution. They know your product. And in a market that is most aware, they're aware of what you offer and how it meets their needs. So the market is somewhere across one of these 5 spectrums of awareness. But it's not just a question of knowing which level your market is in. It's more than just picking or knowing what stage of awareness to optimize in, because the marketplace is really composed of segments. And these segments span across all of the 5 stages of awareness at the same exact time, in fact. And the marketplace and your traffic sources don't actually fall into one bucket. You see, every market is made up of multiple segments, and every market has a segment of buyers that exists in each of the different levels of awareness at any one time. So in reality, the market is actually fractured across all levels of awareness. But the key is knowing which level of awareness to design your marketing funnel for. And we're going to be unpacking that in a little bit. The trick is about knowing where the market is collectively and what awareness level your traffic source is at. If your traffic source is composed of mostly affiliates or joint ventures, then you need to get on those affiliate emails for at least a few months before developing your campaign or your tests in order to understand your market, what they're seeing and what they're hearing. If your traffic source is Facebook or Google pay-per-click or Bing, then you got to spend some time searching for relevant keywords and listening to conversations on social media to understand what stage the traffic source is at. The other thing where optimization falls short is they don't align the traffic source with the actual test. So once you know what stage of awareness your market is, then you can begin to align your optimization efforts where the market already is in relationship to the awareness of your product, benefit, or problem. Now, if we optimize for just one level of awareness, but the marketplace that we're attracting through our traffic sources is different or on a different level of awareness than what we're optimizing for, then what's going to happen is a mismatch is going to occur. and that's going to cause a conversion problem. Now, oftentimes marketers miss this critical concept, and the many standard conversion optimization agencies don't even have a clue why they're only getting a minimal amount of lift using best practices and not going deep enough into the marketplace. They think the problem exists on the landing page itself, and thus they begin to optimize the page, when the real problem is actually a more nuanced one. The real problem lies in the marketplace, not the landing page. But that's really only the first step to understanding marketplace sophistication and how that ties into conversion rate optimization. Marketplace sophistication is the other half. And marketplace sophistication is simply the answer to how many times has your prospect or the market heard the promise before from other competitors. The key here is promise. So it's where your product's promise fits into the already existing market's sophistication level. Think of it as a product market fit. Now, let's discover how each stage of market sophistication works. And marketplace sophistication is also composed of 5 stages, and marketing and optimization at each stage is different fundamentally because the market is different. So the first stage is stage 1, the promise and benefit. Now, you're in this stage if you're the first to market, and therefore the sophistication level of the market is very low or even non-existent. So the marketplace has not heard your promise before because there's simply no other product. There's not many competitors, or maybe there's no alternatives, or maybe you have a brand new product that doesn't exist before. So at this stage, all you really need to do is just be direct and state your claim, nothing more. You need to just simply get them interested, then just give them the opportunity to buy. This is the stage where all the UX and basic features and conversion optimization are going to play in and are going to work well. But once you move beyond this stage, once you get a little bit more advanced, all that stuff becomes table stakes, and now you need to get more sophisticated with your testing. This is where best practices will help, but if the marketplace is past the stage of your CRO efforts, then there's a big mismatch here, and you have to move beyond best practices and what everyone else is doing. So to put this into context, let's look at an example. This is an example of stage 1 marketing awareness. It's squarely in stage 1. So this is an example for a supplement product called L-arginine. It's just basically the generic type of product. So this example has a simple and direct headline. Number 1 nitrous oxide booster available. And the call to action is try it risk-free today. Right? So taking an L-arginine supplement benefits your cardiovascular health by promoting nitric oxide production in your body. This is essential to blood flow. So this product is geared towards bodybuilders. So bodybuilders want more nitric oxide because it reduces the amount of lactic acid that's produced when they exercise and lift weights. And when you reduce the amount of lactic acid, that enables you to exercise or lift heavier weights for an extended period of time. And basically, you could push beyond the point of getting exhausted because of the increase in nitrous oxide in your body. So you can literally exercise longer and build more mass when you're taking this stuff. Now, the bodybuilder market for L-arginine is already in the completely aware stage. So they're aware of the product, they're aware of the benefit, and they're aware of the problem. So if you're targeting bodybuilder market, you can't start with the benefits or even explain what L-arginine does, or even the nitrous oxide angle. All of this is what they've seen and heard before. They're more sophisticated than that level of awareness. The better thing to do would be to split test a hook that comes at it from a totally different angle that they've never heard before. So this is where the mismatch occurs. So one important thing to note is that most of the time the market exists before the product does. And it's usually through innovation of a marketing insight or a technology insight even that creates a new market, which then creates a new product category for stage 1 sophistication. Netflix is actually a perfect example of this. Nothing like it existed before it. all they had to do was present the offer and an opportunity to buy. But competition always follows stage one, and that leads us to stage two. In stage two, we need to expand on the promise and the benefit. So in this next stage, competition starts to heat up. The marketing message moves from simply stating a claim to expanding on the promise. At this stage, your prospects are seeing and hearing competitors. Their marketing is expanding on the promise from stage one marketing. And what I mean by expanding is, in addition to the promise, they're kind of adding to it. So anything that takes the promise and makes it bigger can be considered an expansion. And as a byproduct, the trust of the consumer starts to erode very, very quickly in stage two. Some ways you can expand on the promise and the benefit would be to add specificity. You can add associated promises, or even add a dimension of time. Let's take a look at a couple of examples that do that. So here is an example from Drew Canoli. This is the 5-second solution that eases bloating, banishes cravings, and effortlessly melts away fat. So this is an offer that is firmly positioned in stage two. It expands on the promise of fat loss across two different dimensions. First dimension is by expanding beyond fat loss to including bloating and cravings. And these are all promises that are associated with stage one, the promise of simply losing weight. So it expands upon that. And the second way of expansion is through time, with a solution that only takes 5 seconds, which also adds specificity. Now here is another example from Brian Flatt, the 3-week diet, a foolproof science-based diet designed to melt away several pounds of stubborn body fat in just 21 days. So a little known extreme diet system that literally forces your body to melt away 1 to 2 pounds of stubborn body fat every day for the first 7 days. So this is also built squarely in a stage two marketplace with the stage directed to a stage two audience. So the marketing message here expands on the promise across the dimension of time by adding 3 weeks, just like the previous example. And it also adds specificity to the benefit, 1 to 2 pounds of fat, along with yet another layer of time every day for the first 7 days. So if the market is in stage 3 or higher, this won't really work so well. Meaning if the marketplace and traffic source that you're going after has already heard these claims, has already seen this before, is already a bit more sophisticated, this is not going to work as well. It may work if it's hitting someone that's just really looking for hope, but chances are it won't have a long lifespan. So you see, the reaction to the market has to the message itself begins to develop their sophistication and awareness. Essentially, the marketing is educating the marketplace. But quite simply, stage two, chances are that the market and prospects lose trust because they're seeing offers like this. And they start to think, this can't be true because everyone is saying the same thing. So eventually, the market gets to the point where they stop believing you altogether. And it is at this point where market sophistication enters stage three. Now, most products are actually created in a market that is in stage 3 or stage 4. So you want to pay particular attention to the next section, especially if you're in the health supplement or wellness industry. Stage 3 expands the offer by using a unique mechanism. Now, at the stage 3, the market has changed significantly compared to stage 1 and 2. They're way more sophisticated. They've heard all the claims before. They may have even tried several different products in your category. But most of all, they're jaded and they're skeptical. The market needs a new way to make an old promise work. So we're forced to make a bigger claim, and bigger claims start to no longer work in stage 3 because the marketing has expanded on something different. Right? It's time to expand using a unique mechanism. And a unique mechanism is basically the reason why this thing will work. This is the proof or the claim. It could be a specific part within the process of manufacturing. It could be a specific ingredient if you're a health product. It's basically the thing that's responsible for fulfilling the promise, either implicitly fulfilling it or directly fulfilling it. So here is a perfect example. This is an example of Garcinia cambogia. So this has had its day in the marketing realm, and this you can see is there's a huge wave of popularity for this product. This Garcinia cambogia is actually an ingredient, and it was a weight loss supplement product. So Garcinia cambogia is actually the unique mechanism that differentiates it from its competitors. It came on the market out of nowhere back around 2012, 2013, and this is looking at tracking the Garcinia cambogia keyword or unique mechanism using Google Trends. So it shows the rise and fall of popularity of the unique marketing mechanism. And you could see where the market was literally created out of nothing back in 2013, where it spiked in 2014, and then how it's been on a downward trend ever since. This is an example of how response rates also track over time, and conversion rates as well, because you're seeing the rise and fall of stage 3 marketplace awareness. So using this unique mechanism of Garcinia cambogia in your marketing message in late 2013, early 2014, when the market was in this stage of awareness, that's the perfect time. After that, the effectiveness of the mechanism started to work less and less because of a spike in competition, which created other similar products and promises, and everyone started to lose trust in it. And as a result, you can see the downward trend in the graph, which indicates that the market awareness is moving to the next stage. Usually in this stage is when marketers enter sort of a competition of who can trump whose proof. So they layer on bigger scientific case studies in the case of a supplement, or more proof in the case of competitors. That's more proof points, more social proof points, all the standard kind of CRO things. But this is where most of the amateur health marketers get tripped up. They get stuck in a perpetual game of adding more and more proof. And it's important to understand that unique mechanism is what makes your product different. But it doesn't actually have to be unique. It could just be a particular way that the product is manufactured or what you're talking about for the product. So a classic example of unique mechanism was used in Schlitz beer. And this comes from the copywriting legend Claude Hopkins, author of Scientific Advertising. So he took this beer company from number 5 in the US market to neck and neck with number 1 in just a few months. And at the same time, all of the other beer companies were talking about how pure their beer was. But Hopkins tapped into a unique mechanism, the process that was used to make the beer that ensured purity. They basically had like a triple filter process for the water. Now, actually, everybody at the time was doing the exact same process. All the beer companies were doing the same thing. But the key is that nobody was talking about it in their marketing or advertising. Schlitz was the first one to talk about it. And the key takeaway is that the unique mechanism may already exist in your product. So the unique mechanism can be a particular part of your manufacturing process. It can be a particular part of your ingredient or combination of ingredients or how you do things or your methodology. It can even be a way you deliver the product or a method or process or philosophy of the company. The important thing to note is that it's actually just an idea, meaning you can make it up completely out of thin air. Here is an example of a stage 3 message and market in a stage 3 unique mechanism product. So this is a product for turmeric. It is a liquid product, and the headline is "Unlock the Power of Turmeric with Mycel Liposomal Delivery." So liposomal delivery is the unique mechanism here, and it's basically the delivery of how it gets into your system. But just like in stage 3, this kind of the unique mechanism gets saturated, it gets expanded on too far because of increased audience sophistication and increased competition. And then the market needs to level up again, which brings the market to stage 4, in which you need to differentiate your unique mechanism and expand on the benefit. In stage 4, the mechanism becomes more elaborated, just like the promise did in stage 2. And it quickly pushes itself out of the range of believability. This is the sign of a mature market. This is why trust and belief are so vital to optimizing any sale online. So your prospects are in this stage if your promise and your mechanism has been presented in the marketplace, and both have been seen and heard by your prospects many times before, but it hasn't been expanded on. So just like in stage 2, this adds expansion on top of the previous stage, but this time the expansion is on the mechanism versus the promise, because the marketplace has become more sophisticated. You're dealing with a more savvy buyer at this stage, and they just heard about everything, and they need something new to propel them to buy. The promise is still important here. Don't get me wrong, but the promise is delivered is what's being expanded on. How the promise is being delivered. In this example, next we're going to look at a stage 4 marketing example. So this is an example where the unique mechanism is expanded on by adding proof on how and why the mechanism works, and expanding on the benefit. So this is a further example of that liposomal delivery and the nutrient delivery system that protects and delivers turmeric to cells throughout the body, avoid the dreaded P syndrome. So the P syndrome is the unique mechanism itself, which is basically stating that the old delivery method of taking this supplement, you're just pissing it away, and your body's not absorbing any of the turmeric. So therefore, you need this particular unique mechanism in order for your body to fully absorb it. So eventually, this will be expanded on to the degree where no unique mechanisms will work, and the market will have grown tired of all the false promises and that they've heard dozens of times before. And once that happens, the market begins to shrink because competition starts to drop out because the money's not there anymore. That leads the market over to stage 5, the final stage of marketing sophistication. And this is the stage you're in if your mechanism has been presented and has been expanded on, and the market is very mature at this stage. They no longer believe your marketing message, and the market moves away from the promise and the mechanism that delivers the promise and really brings the prospect back into the marketing message by identifying with the prospect on an emotional level rather than their desire for the outcome. So to do that, you need to understand your prospect extremely well, and you need to tap into the emotional advantages of the future state of your prospect that they're trying to achieve. So it becomes more difficult to convert your prospects at this stage, and it moves off of the product and focuses on the prospect completely. Here's an example, again, in the health weight loss space that's in stage 5, sophistication. How long into your diet before you slip? You see how here it puts the emphasis on the prospect and not the product. So how does this tie into CRO? Well, marketplace awareness and marketplace sophistication are extremely important because your product, no matter what your product is, doesn't exist in a vacuum. You can apply any of these lessons to any product across any e-commerce. And you need to understand the marketplace and design your CRO tests around that. Let's look at how that's done and how to architect conversion rate optimization around the market. So marketplace plus CRO has 4 parts. Let's talk about how we can use marketplace insight with CRO by designing your revenue optimization plan around the awareness stage that's tied to your specific segment in the marketplace and the traffic source, and how you can get bigger gains than the standard lift on conversion rate optimization tests that you may already be getting. So here are 4 steps to determining where your prospects are on the marketplace awareness scale. First, you'll need to identify who you're competing against. The best way to do this that I found is to survey your buyers and survey your non-buyers by asking them what other alternatives they're considering before purchasing your product. You can frame the question as, what product did you buy or consider buying to help with and then you insert whatever your problem they're trying to solve is. It's important to ask them rather than just assume you know who your competition is, because your prospects may be looking at an alternative solution rather than a direct competitor. And a competitor in your eyes is different than a competitor in their eyes. And next, you'll want to study your competition and analyze what promises they're making on their sales page, what they're promising or implying a prospect will gain or experience or feel by buying their product. And you'll want to map it out on a grid like this, which brings us to step 3, which is basically finding the gaps. So once you document every promise on the grid, you want to look for common themes and trends and similarities across the marketplace. And what are the differences between those two things? Which are unique, which are not being talked about? And also, where does your product fall along these lines? So once you spot the common trends, then you can understand what stage your prospects are at on the marketplace awareness scale. And once you know where your prospects are, you can architect your split test to align with the marketplace and maximize sales. And remember, each stage of the marketplace awareness scale requires a different approach to selling and positioning your product to your prospect, which is why it's so important to understand what offers and promises are being talked about, what they're seeing, what they're hearing. And if all you're doing is modeling your competition, your prospect's trust level is going to go way down super fast because they've heard it before, and it becomes harder and harder to sell to them. And in the final step, step 4, you want to develop a hypothesis and test it. So here's an example. Let's say the market is already aware of your product, knows about your product, and knows about the benefits. You've confirmed this by doing the analysis, and you learned that the market is very aware of your product and benefits. And you can also infer that they already know and want it. And now it's time to build a hypothesis around that. So here's our hypothesis using our hypothesis framework. If the market is in stage 3 and already knows about the benefits of your product, then they likely have already heard all the claims. So if we create a headline that is counter to the main claim, that we can attract the attention of medium to high level of awareness market and increase conversion rates as measured by revenue. We can also test adding specificity to the headline to a segment or a specific marketing group. And the top marketers fully understand that their prospects' marketplace awareness in their specific product category. This is really what sets them apart, which is why they're able to craft a marketing hook that captivates the market, gets them interested, keeps them reading, and ultimately gets them to buy. This is the missing piece to conversion rate optimization, the deep understanding of the marketplace that you can use to evaluate your product market fit and apply market insight into your CRO testing approach. I'll open it up to questions at this point.
Awesome. So now let me just open the videos so we can see each other. And I saw that Pete had a question. How do you determine what stage your market is at? Would you do that through surveys? And
no, I wouldn't do that through surveys, right? Because surveys are only going to give you what your customer's perception is, and they don't really understand or think about things in terms of where the market is. You want to look at the market to determine where the market is. So by that, you want to go out to your competitors. I would survey your buyers and non-buyers to see who they think your competitors are, what alternatives they're buying or thinking about buying. If you can't do that, then I would just come up with a list of who you think your competitors are, or use some insights as far as where people are going on the web after they get to your site, and then go to those competitor sites, go through their website, go through their funnels, buy their products, experience what their customers experience, and I would make note of the marketing copy that they use in their headlines and everything on the page. What promise are they conveying in their copy? What emotional benefit? Some stuff that's not written on the page, but you can imply, what desires are they trying to tap into? What emotional states? What future state would be the benefit of this product? And I would put that all in the grid, and I would do your product as well as at least 2 or 3 other competitors, and then look for the gaps, look for the differences, look for the similarities, and then really just it's an exercise of creative brainstorming at that point, coming up with Okay, so looking at, looking back to answer your question, looking back at the different stages of awareness and seeing where it fits, based on all the messages in the marketplace. Is everyone marketing to completely aware, totally unaware? That's how you get a sense of where the marketplace is, by just looking at more and more offers, more and more competitors, and seeing the majority of people are marketing towards this segment. So the assumption that you're making then is that is where the marketplace is.
Okay, good answer, good answer. And from Mike, what kind of research do you do in regards to substantiating claims within that sphere? How do you test references, clinical studies, and so on?
So as far as research, the best research to do is to see what's being said in the marketplace, so that you can then, the only way to really test it is to actually test it. So you can come up with a hypothesis, right? But the only way you're going to validate that is to test it. So you can test research claims, although I think that's a really small lever to test. I would take a look at those research claims and really try and dig deeper into them and see what is it about that research claim that is the promise. What are they trying to prove with that research claim? And create sort of like a high-level summary, a one-sentence summary, or even a two-word summary of each claim or each research point, or each proof point for that matter, and kind of do almost like a word cloud or graph it, and then come up with hypotheses to test it, because you're never really going to know until you put it out there in the marketplace and get the market's reaction to it.
Yep, I agree. And Pete has another question. Bearing this in mind, the previous question, how would you target your market using Facebook?
Not really sure. We don't really focus on traffic, bringing traffic. We just focus on converting that traffic once it gets there. It's important to understand where the traffic is coming from, because you want to know what level of awareness they're coming from, what other offers they've seen on that traffic source. But as far as bringing the traffic and optimizing for the traffic, we don't really specialize in that. We specialize in getting more of that traffic to convert. So we're not traffic experts, we're conversion experts.
Okay, good answer. Yeah, even Pete said, okay, thanks. Okay, so any last questions? Any last questions, guys? No? Well, 3, 2, 1. Bobby, thank you so much for attending the last, it's the last, presentation at Ecom Day, and thank you for participating. Guys, I hope, Lizzie asked, please, is it possible for attendees to have access to the study lessons and slides from all the facilitators for the listening program? Okay, yeah. So back to where I was. Bobby, thank you again for participating. We enjoyed having you here and other experts sharing all this knowledge. And Lizzie, yes, we're gonna put the videos soon, because we have to download them and upload them on a different platform. And yeah, this is it. I hope everybody enjoyed International Ecom Day, and we're gonna do it again. Stay tuned. Thank you, Bobby.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye, guys.